to go along with it.
All right. Is this thing working right now? Can you guys see me? Yes, we're working. Finally working. Okay, guys, we are live from Observer Ranch right now. This is the Ben Q&A portion of opening day here at Founders Weekend. We've got August Dunning in the back of the room. And everybody, we're going to try this again. Say hello to everyone online. And I don't know if we're going to end up using this or not, but we'll be able to see the screen if I need to share anything. It's not optimal. It's not going to be the same as it's showing up here where I am, but we'll do what we can do. Anyway, as I was struggling to get the live stream started, August asked a question from the back of the room, and that is, of course, the risk of a solar EMP, the lights out, blackout phase, probably coming before the micronova pole shift. What would be the number one thing to do to get ready? And that's a really hard thing to answer because some people are already in a fantastic location. Maybe their primary needs are prepping. Maybe there's somebody who's been prepping for years, but they just found out that, hey, wait a minute, the tsunamis are going to hit me here. I'm not sure there's an overall general answer to that question. It might be a pragmatic one, person by person. You have a suggestion?
I would say food.
Food, yeah. Food's huge. Yeah. Canned food, dry food. There's no refrigeration. There's no power. Yeah, and you know, I think that the rule of 3 is pretty good here. You know, 3 minutes without oxygen, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. That's the best you can pull. You okay? There's lots of noises going on here, but that's okay. We'll work with it.
To play off of that, the concern that I keep coming back to is because of the weakened magnetic shield, how little of a CME or some pulse is it going to take to have the same level of Carrington event?
So he's asking with Earth's weakening magnetic field, obviously it's not going to take a Carrington event to do the global EMP. He's asking how much it's going to take, and unfortunately I don't have a crystal ball and I'm not Jesus. So certainly it wouldn't take the X100 that the Carrington event probably was. But Fire Dog, thanks for that. Yeah, anybody want to toss some teal pears on here just because I'm at the ranch and I'm talking to other people and not just you? Love those teal pears. All right, next question. The good news is I could just start taking questions from them online if we need to.
So here's a local question. I was a little shocked. It was my first time up this way from the Midwest. And as I went into town first, and I came back out on 123. And I'm amazed at how many residences there are. I guess I was under the impression that this was extraordinarily remote. Are you concerned with your neighbors finding out what everything stands for here and you being overrun when and if something happens because you're the prepper who's done everything? I was shocked to find out how many people are out here. It's a little crazy.
So
Did you show anybody how many houses and mortgage you have?
So the question was if I'm afraid of my neighbors. No, not at all. Not even close. First of all, they all do know what this place is. Most of them are horse and cattle ranchers, if not observers and preppers in their own right. And they don't have a group or organization or a network or anything. Most of these folks are just out here on their own. We're going to be dozens strong with very serious weapons. I would highly recommend not trying us in the aftermath.
Right, so as a follow-up, about so much military in the state and around who are also there.
Yes.
Any concerns for that?
So, by the way, we got Tone Veas back there as well, and he just asked about all the military in the state. They don't give two damns about us. They don't care at all. Like they have so many bigger things to worry about. They don't care about regular people or doing anything. They're certainly not going to go mess with them. It's outrageous how many things are going to be on their plate in that scenario. You know, they don't have time to go mess with people really now. In the aftermath, it's probably going to be even fewer, if I had to guess. And I have, part of the plan is making ourselves useful for cooperative purposes, which is always a good thing. If you can be useful to the people around you, that's helpful. And so that's part of the plan for sure. But in general, I'm not too worried about the military at all. I really don't think that they're going to be doing anything brutal like that. Let's see what else we got here. Thank you, everyone, for those teal pears. That's fantastic. Lorraine, look at that. Riding a rocket. That's cute. I like it. Fantastic. All right, what else we got? Yeah.
How would you give advice to someone who is, I don't want to say scientifically illiterate, but how do you use science?
Come here. Hold on, wait. That's Adam and Kat.
How do you go about bridging the science gap with someone who wants to learn this stuff, but doesn't have the background?
It's a good question. So the question was for people who don't have a science background. I would say virtually none of my viewers have a science background. Do you have a science background?
3 degrees, science.
Yeah? Okay. Well, I would say that the vast majority of people who watch me have never done anything with science after high school.
What about my tribe, for example, who are open to this, but how do I go about bringing them up to speed without doing umpteen hours of?
So this is an interesting question. He wants to know how to bring scientific laymen up to speed quickly without the hours and hours of homework. They're going to die. If they're not willing, we're talking about something so important. If they're not willing to put in some work and put in some time and put in some effort, they're going to die. Too bad.
Stand-up comedian, hours of absorbing these videos. It's putting in the work.
I need to shave, don't I? Holy cow. Wow. Yeah, to be honest, like the interview I just did with Matt Bell on Limitless, that's 3 hours. That's fantastic. The short version of the homework is like 26 minutes. There's no getting around them having to dive in with both feet. This is not, I mean, to quote Fight Club, this is not a seminar. This is not a weekend retreat. This is something that becomes an integral part of your thinking, your awareness day to day, things you're planning for the future. There's no shortcuts when it comes to entering the next age of Earth, when it comes to surviving the cosmic catastrophe. There's no shortcuts.
I don't know who knows where Foster Gamble made movies called Thrive and Thrive 2 in 2022. Good colleague of mine. He made a well-known guy. He made a Perceiving Levels of Conspiracy Awareness about a year ago. It was interesting when you're talking to people. It starts at level 1, you know something's not right. To level 10, the cosmos is a unified whole unfolding perfectly. So you can kind of gauge where someone is.
What was the name of that?
Perceiving Levels of Conspiracy Awareness.
All right, so he's talking about a show that was put out called Perceiving.
Yeah, that was his list. His movie was called Thrive in 2011, and then Thrive 2 came out in 2022.
Yeah, the Foster Gamble, Thrive and Thrive 2. Is this in one of those?
It was one of his fireside talks.
Okay.
This is how you can talk to someone and say, where are you on this list? How much-
So Foster Gamble, what's the fireside talk number or the title of it?
To find it. It was about a year ago.
Oh, okay.
I have the list. It's just 10 things you can kind of judge someone's, place.
Basically, like the levels of conspiracy that they're willing to listen to. Basically, a personal Overton window, so to speak. That's interesting. All right, that's cool. That is interesting. All right, I'm going to read one from here. Ronnie says it has been considered that if the pyramids are much older than the narrative, that maybe an ancient culture was attempting to strengthen the magnetic field and prevent the shift. I don't think so. I think that they were trying to build something that wasn't going to be destroyed in the shift. I'm a pretty big believer that Egypt was way further ahead than we believe, but not quite so far as the whole like pyramid power plant theory, where it's like beaming infrared energy up to an alien spaceship. Not quite there. But they certainly were using electricity, and they may have even been using uranium. Next.
On the timing of the micronova, I think you said before, it's in the solar minimum usually?
In theory, the solar micronova should be in solar minimum conditions. However, when we hit the center magnetic null, galactic reversal point of the current sheet, it may just instantly trigger a depression of all activity. I mean, it could be in the middle of the next sunspot maximum, and just the sun will just lose all its sunspots in a couple hours. So in general, yes, that's absolutely true. But who's to say that the galactic magnetic reversal doesn't just bring on those conditions anyway? That's a good question. The question was about when the micronova happens, and it probably should happen at solar minimum rather than solar maximum conditions. But the things about the galactic current sheet and the galactic magnetic reversal that kind of short circuit the electrical activity on the surface. Yes, Adam? Might also sort of throw us into a short-term
Movie
sunspot
watch.
minimum. Movie watch?
Yes, play watch
You're the movie.
this movie.
You're the movie up there.
Play up the movie ranch.
The movie ranch? Can I have a big hug?
The ranch.
Big hugs?
Play the ranch.
All right, go play. Go play, big guy.
No.
Well, that was awesome.
So, where we won't be here to see it, in the galactic current sheet, when the null hits, the reversal happens, how many, potentially billions, how many stars fire off just in our galaxy alone? All of this, I don't know how big the null will be that could cause, are we talking about hundreds of stars, thousands, millions of stars?
He's asking, the question he's asking is how many stars should we expect to be seeing go nova? Just our sun. The galactic current,
Yes, that's all we would see,
yeah.
but how many galactically or universally would happen?
Well, I mean, the current sheet has to be hitting the star for it to happen. And so
That's my question, how big is that?
the thick,
No, yeah.
the null is probably not very wide at all, but the current sheet itself is probably about 30 light years thick.
Okay.
And it spans from 200 to 300 light years tall.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all.
How do we know that? What technology do they?
So they have come out, and these have actually been studies. So they've actually shown the wave, and I'll show this here. This actually could work. Okay, I bet I can do this. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. Okay, so we'll pull up the galactic current sheet here. All right, now let's see. Can we, if I go up like that, I'm hoping. Tone, are you watching online?
I paused it so that.
All right, well, I'm hoping that you guys can see that. If you can see the galactic current sheet, and you've probably seen this before, it's the waves are shorter in amplitude closer to the center, and then they get bigger as you go out. They know that in our galaxy, it's about 200 to 300 light years, with the smaller ones being in the middle. And then I think it was Dr. John at Cornell who reported that the actual Parker instability wave is probably a few tens of light years thick. And then there was a subsequent publication that said it's probably between 20 to 40 light years thick. So, yeah. So that's the general answer that they have measured it. Good question, though.
And the frequency of the galactic current sheet is 12,000 years in our time.
That's one way to put it, yeah.
How fast is it actually going?
He's asking how fast it's going. It's probably going about 700 to 1,100 kilometers per second radially outward through the galaxy.
So this galactic sheet does this every couple thousand years?
Well, I mean, technically, she's asking how often the sheet comes, and it arrives to us about every 12,000 years, but it's constantly flowing out. It's not like every 12,000 years the center of the galaxy puts out a pulse. It's a constant spinning wave. So if I've got a hose in my hand and I'm spinning in circles, I'm not constantly going to be drenching you just whenever I pass. And then maybe when I've spun to here, the water gets to you. And so every time I get to here, you get wet. But technically, the water's spewing out 24/7 all the time. It's just with how far away you are and the direction you are, it's only going to hit you periodically. Even though, so it's a constant wave source. It's just where we're standing in the galaxy, we only get hit by it every so often. But it's constantly there, traveling throughout the center of the galaxy like that.
So the galaxy is burning.
Yes, yes, it is. The galaxy had too much coffee and it's all jittery.
I just surprised me.
Yeah.
How about
All right, I'm going to get one from online here. With all the particles and energy flowing to the North Pole from the weakened magnetic field, what is the likelihood of activating the Gackel Ridge supervolcano? We have a Stephen Burns watcher here. Stop it. Stop it. Total horseshit hypothesis. Makes absolutely no sense in the most mainstream or the most alternative physics. Not even close. Total nonsense. And stop watching that fraud. How are observers still watching that clown? Anyway, next. See if I come back to these chats online again. You're going to get me salty in person. I'm never salty in person. Yes.
You know, I took a look at that thing. You talked about the North Pole volcano thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you look at that really closely with the ocean floor itself, it looks like a bowl that came in and plowed through that area. It might have had some problems, but it looks more like a meteor hit, like very large, several miles, in diameter, and came in a very glancing blow at the top and slid underneath.
August is talking about the caldera that Stephen Burns is obsessed with, saying he thinks it looks a little bit more like an impact crater. I wouldn't put it past it, but even if it is a super volcano, the physics purported there are not making any sense. Next.
Would that reduce the saltiness if I started with Stefan Burns and then up your channel?
Well, all right, so he's wondering if it's going to reduce the saltiness. Desalinate me to hear that he moved to the observers from Stefan Burns. Only slightly. Only slightly. Every little bit helps, sure. But every little bit of Burns hurts. So there's that. Grand, thank you. What we got next?
I'll give you one.
Okay.
So from the Limitless interview, talked about the ice being the centrifugal force going to cause
Right.
tilt. New ice, but these are not going to melt completely. How much new ice do you think it would take for the next one to cause it to shift back if it's centrifugally?
So the question was, okay, so the crust gets unlocked by the micronova. The ice caps are the weight distribution heterogeneity. They want to come here. And so the question is, if these are not going to fully melt off, how much new ice do you need up there? And the answer is not very much at all, because when the planet reorients like this, don't forget the mantle heaving is going on. There's the equatorial bulge that's going to push out a little bit. And basically, even with the ice at the equator, the Earth is going to find a new equilibrium, a new balance, such that any ice that accumulates at the North and South Pole will be a tipping factor. So you see what I'm saying? It's not like the planet goes from here to here with the ice at the equator, and then the two parts that weigh the most are now at the equator. Once it gets to there, the whole Earth reorients a little bit. These areas probably sink a little bit. Other areas probably have some isostatic readjustment upwards. So at the default state, it's a homogeneous balance. And so any ice north and south would then be a tipping factor. I thought I saw a pretty well typed out question. Ark Barn Farmer, you are 25 years tobacco free today? I'll clap for that. That's awesome. I'm still working on it.
With respect to the last question, what effect will the collapse of the AMOC have?
So he's asking about the effects of the collapse of the Atlantic Meridional overturning circulation. That's what happened in the movie The Day After Tomorrow. It's probably not that extreme, probably not that quick, but it's certainly little ice age conditions that happen within a season, 1.5 to 3 months. And you've basically got 7 to 10 degree drop in the northern hemisphere, a 3 to 6 degree drop in the southern hemisphere, widespread agricultural failure, famines that year, pretty horrendous blizzard conditions in the hemispheric winter. And this probably lasts for a little while. It probably lasts.
We're not talking miles of ice buildup.
No, we're not talking miles of ice buildup, but it's the kind of thing where within just a couple of months, people are going to be looking for food. The agricultural failures are going to be outrageous in that scenario. Unfortunately, it's probably closer than they're willing to admit. Yeah. Europe gets hit the worst when the AMOC collapses. Half of Europe could die in a year, which is considerable and concerning. Yeah. What else we got here?
So how much more does the AMOC expand? You had a video several days ago that showed when it was basically still located mostly in southern Atlantic and now it's spread all the way across.
So you're talking about the South Atlantic anomaly.
Oh, sorry.
Is that what you want to ask about?
No.
Okay, no worries.
But that is expanding.
Yeah, the South Atlantic anomaly is expanding.
And what are the ramifications of that, I guess, in accelerating that process?
So I'm not necessarily sure if the South Atlantic anomaly is directly playing into the AMOC at all. If you'll remember, it was maybe just a couple days before that when we shared that story about how the AMOC shutdown starts in the northern Atlantic. And that's right where the Beaufort Gyre releases into. And so 2 years ago, we heard the Beaufort Gyre had stabilized and is getting ready to tip and release. We know that at that exact point in the North Atlantic, we have the anomaly known as the North Atlantic cold blob, which is actually likely the result of the Beaufort Gyre releasing, Greenland ice melt, and the beginning of the collapse of the AMOC. Yeah. Good question, though. Solid question. How about a Western Pacific anomaly? I've gone over that a couple of times in the last couple of months. It's there. It seems to be a recurring thing, and it appears to be tied to these excursions, these Earth disaster cycles. So all things falling into place horrifically. What else we got?
Are we waiting for the second spike of the solar max right now?
That's a good question. So the question is about, are we waiting for the second spike of sunspot maximum? So I'm going to go, and hold on, before I do that, I'm going to make sure we can see up there. Solar cycle progression. Okay, so let's just focus on the current sunspot cycle right here. That's not going to go that long. All right, so here's where we are in terms of the sunspot cycle right now. Hopefully this is easily visible on the screen up there. we often do get these double peaked sunspot maxima. So let me go back a little bit. You can see this one, there's one peak and then another peak. This one peak with a drop in the middle. This one didn't have as much of a drop in the middle. That's annoying. This one didn't have as much of a drop in the middle over here, but you can still see there's still a double peak. Not all sunspot cycles are like this, however. We go back even further. This one sort of peaked early and then tapered. This one really just sort of had one bell curve. This one had one peak all the way over here on the left side. And so the question, and this is actually a pretty hot topic for heliophysicists and in the space weather community, is the sun going to basically just drop off from here into sunspot minimum, or are we going to have a second peak? Now, if we have a second peak, we could be looking at high sunspot numbers till almost 2027. If not, we'll probably be, down to sunspot numbers averaging about 50 to 60 by 2027. Either way, there's no way to know right now. And this is what we're all watching and waiting to see. It is worth noting that even if there is not a second peak and the sun does descend from here down into sunspot minimum, the geomagnetic maximum always lags a year to 2 years behind the sunspot maximum. Even though there's slightly fewer sunspots, there are still sunspots, and so there's still solar flares, CMEs. But on the declining phase of the sunspot cycle, that's when the coronal hole activity is the highest. So the chances of that CME or that filament release being a 1-2 punch with a coronal hole that's already in play goes up, which is why you have your sunspot maximum, but then about a year or two later, you have your geomagnetic storm maximum. So we're still waiting to see if we're going to get the second peak. It might happen, it might not. But even if it doesn't, we should still expect more geomagnetic storms on the way down here.
Do you think the decreasing wave and the decreasing magnetic fields that the entire solar system is experiencing increasing sunspot and CMEs? Kind of keeps it in, the magnetic field gets less and
It's an interesting question. It's about how it appears the entire solar system is having this magnetic shift. All the planets are showing signs. And so the question was, does that have any effect on sunspots and CME production? I wouldn't go so far as to say no definitively. Then again, it's hard to really know how many flares and CMEs there were 12,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago. You know what I mean? And so the entire time that we have been watching the sun well enough to know about solar flares and CMEs, the magnetic field has already been in decline. So we don't even really have anything to compare now to say, okay, yes, everything is declining now magnetically. This is what we're seeing. We don't have anything to compare that to say whether or not it's changed. That's an interesting question. I like where your head's at. All right, let's see here. What do you say we pick one from the chat? In recent news, scientists find possible link between solar storms and heart attacks due to sun's increased solar activity in an alarming new study. From the Department of Redundancy Department, Patsy George, if you go and you take a look at the morning news show from yesterday, September 25th, I imagine that's probably the news you're talking about. Don't forget, when you hear about news like this involving the sun or the magnetic field, or a connection between sun and weather, or sun and earthquakes, or sun and health, chances are I talked about it either days or weeks earlier. Third-party news sites, especially science news sites, they're routinely days behind. Fair question, though. Next. We're chugging along here. We're chugging along. I'm going to have to go back to the chat if you guys are exhausted in terms of questions. Is another solar system entering ours, Ben? Blake, absolutely not. No. There is no Nibiru. There is no other star system coming. That is a completely false trail there.
What is the answer to life in the universe and everything?
When did you get here, Jack?
500 minutes ago.
About 5 minutes ago, Jack snuck in and I didn't see him. How you doing, man? All right, sorry, repeat your question. I was too surprised seeing you sitting there to actually pay attention to anything that was coming out of your mouth.
What's the answer to life, the universe, and everything?
47 or 42? 42, okay. Yeah, that's the best I got. That's the best I got. Somebody's asking about Anton Petrov. Stop this. If there was somebody on the internet, on YouTube, that I thought was worth your attention and watching, I would tell you about them. There's a reason why the only person I talk about is Sky Scholar, Dr. Pierre-Marie Robitaille. Anton. The man who for the last 10 years has been half as detailed and 2 months behind me on every freaking video he makes. Don't ask me about other people. What are you doing? I don't have anything nice to say about anybody, like ever. Okay? Learn this. I'm getting salty and I don't do that in person. Where's the most relaxing place on the ranch to sit back and read? Why is it the lounge chairs on the deck? That's not bad, but if you take like a little picnic blanket or something out to the shale forest back there, there are some depressed areas where you've got like shale rising everywhere from you. It completely blocks out all human-made electromagnetism. You take your cell phone in there, the cell phone has no service. I would say that is the most relaxing place on the ranch, but
Yeah. I'm going out there tomorrow. Where is it?
the shale forest, you have to go back into the back part, not quite all the way to D14, cross over the creek. Well, ask them. If you're going back there, you got to ask them.
Wait, shale? Is that on top or is that?
Shale, yeah, it's not the blue shale where that they frack and get the natural gas out of. It's the gray shale or the silver shale. I don't know if it has an official name, but that there's across the creek where the forest starts, the first couple hundred yards in and all the way up to the top of the hill. You almost wonder how the trees are living there. The trees are growing right up out of the shale. And so like there's no sand, there's no dirt, there's just shale and those trees over there. But it's really undulating. And so there's some places where you can go down into a bowl, you are completely blocked out. I mean, maybe if there's a satellite going right over top of you, maybe some waves can come down, but like cell phones, TVs, 5G towers, stuff like that. It's completely cut off. Do you know which spot you're tenting in? Okay, so you go in the back and then you have to go up a little bit, right? Come back down to the main road area by the creek. Walk to where D6 is. Did you get a map with that? No? All right, so maybe then just walk about 500 feet more that way and cross the creek. Okay, that'll work. You guys enjoying this?
The bathrooms are just down the hall.
Yeah.
You guys were wondering.
I will take it.
Yeah? Are you watching me in there? Everybody say hi to Mike. All right, well, we're having fun, at least. So there's that. What atmospheric effects will happen when the Earth crust tips 90 degrees? Hurricane force winds. And then in the aftermath of the micronova, extreme hail, extreme temperature changes, more hurricane force winds, etc., etc. Next question.
How many people do you really think have their homes ready for this? Like, I look around, I see cardboard shoe boxes, and there's no way that's sustainable.
Yeah, she's asking how many people I think are actually ready for what's coming. Less than 1%. Way less than 1%.
I want to build a Earth Day.
So they estimate that something like 10 to 15% of the country is preppers. I don't know about worldwide, but 10 to 15% of the country is a prepper of some sort. Only about 3 to 5% are preppers in terms of like long-term prepping. But most of them have never even heard of this specific catastrophe. And so there's things they're missing. Maybe they're in the wrong location. There's a lot that has to fall into place for you to be ready for the disaster that we're actually going to be experiencing. It's a good question, though.
I'm preparing my mind for like my mom and dad's house, typical elderly people, but their home is not prepared to have heat on an entire 3,000 square foot home. The laundry, you know what I mean? Like that whole infrastructure, people are just not.
No, there's a lot that's going to be lost and a lot that's going to have to be relearned and reimagined, et cetera. This is like the fourth person that's been asking for a link to the tickets to the winter tours. They're not available yet. Chill. When tickets for the winter tour become available, do you think that you're not going to be so damn sick of me telling you about it within a couple of days? Like, if you watch the channel, there is 0% chance you miss something like that, okay? Same with the PDF of the book becoming available whenever Kat can throw that together. 0 chance you miss that news, okay? 0.
Following that, has there been something of an archaeological overlay against the 12,000 year, 6,000 year cycle of when people moved into caves? Is it like, do we, you think of some of the stuff we discovered in Turkey where there's entire villages underground.
Darren Kuyu, Cappadocia.
So is that in response or is that in preparation? And have we ever overlaid the archaeological investigation of when those things were created? I feel like it has to be like immediately after the few people who survived went, holy shit, let's keep all around. Or is there anything like that?
So we can't ignore how much help our ancestors claim to have had from the sky. Not just in terms of rebuilding civilization, you know, there's plenty of stories of that from all over the globe. But who's to say they didn't come down and tell people how to prepare as well? There's really no way to know.
So what would the effect possibly have been other than massive heart failure and things like that? In a Carrington level event, you back up another 150 years or another 150 years behind that. Pre-telegraph, that was our cue to the Carrington event happening is the burning telegraph wires. What were the cues? You go back to a Mayan culture and there's a coronal mass ejection that isn't a full-on solar micronova, but suddenly all the elders in the village drop dead, or that guy just wouldn't go out running with everybody else.
No, you wouldn't have anything like that. You would need to be warned, expressly warned. Yeah, there's not going to be something like that happens. I wouldn't put it past ancient people who are a little more in tune with the earth than we are to sense something. Whether that's weather, whether that's atmospheric electricity. I think it's possible they used to be able to see ley lines. And maybe that's something about their eyes, or maybe they were in glow mode back then. Who knows? It's interesting. So Ben, are those 7 comet incomers real? I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. I mean, I know about Atlas, and that's, people are blowing that one way out of proportion. Look, there are always several comets in the solar system. This is a normal thing. I don't know why it's making such big news now. Thoughts on Andy Hall's work? Not the worst I've ever seen. Can't hold a candle to Billy Yelverton. And some of his hypotheses don't make sense because some of the things he said caused some of these things, would kill anything that was nearby enough to see it. And clearly people saw it. So there's a major problem with Andy Hall's position on some of these things. When do you think the disaster is that obvious that people will have to believe? What do you think will cause this tipping point? Gary, you might be overestimating people. You might be overestimating our species. Gary, all right, it says you're from Wales in the UK. Look at what is happening to your country. Gave up your guns, accepted tolerance. Now you're being overthrown, invaded. Like for those in the UK, you guys understand that you have like 5 or 6 months to reverse what's happening, or you're all going to die. Like, you understand that, right? Right? Mike just handed me this. It said, give them the formula, but why? It hasn't come up. I'm sure it will come up at some point. All right, what other questions we got?
Am I safe on the East Coast?
I'm getting trolled in person from the back of the room.
I'm in Florida, I'm gonna get a much bigger circle. Yeah.
All right, so now you guys are asking for the formula. The formula is to know whether or not the tsunami poses a tremendous risk to your location. It's very simple. Take your location's elevation in feet, your distance to the ocean in miles. Add those two numbers together. Better be over 5,000. That's what you should know. And if you're under 3,000, your primary plan should be to float away. Something that floats that you can get on and just float away. Is that helpful?
What's the gray area between 3,000 and 5,000?
The gray area between 3,000 and 5,000. You might be okay. You might need to float. What about Hawaii? Is it safe on the... No. On what planet could you think Hawaii is safe? Like, did you just show up at my channel today? But what if I climb up the volcano that's going to be exploding at that time? People in Hawaii get the lovely decision. Can we go up and get burned to death, or we stay down here and drown? Oi. Oi, oi. Mark Zuck thinks it's safe. Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg didn't get the whole story. If you were, all right, think Francis Scott Key, okay? Old money versus new money, Great Gatsby. Let's say you're old money on this planet. Do you want Mark Zuckerberg in the next age of Earth? Or do you tell him half the story and not tell him the rest of the story? Yeah, you sure? It's not hard to figure this out. Same with all the underling elites that are building in New Zealand. Holy cow. Holy cow. New Zealand, what a terrible, terrible place for this. All right. What was that? And LA. Yeah, and LA. Yeah. Kim Kardashian building her bunker in Los Angeles. Best of luck, my dear. Yeah.
Doug said they're having a really strong door to take the amount of water pressure on that door and try to stay underground.
Yeah. How hot is the solar flash, Ben? 6. What kind of a question is that?
5,000 Kelvin.
Are you growing a beard?
I haven't shaved in several days. That's definitely true. I haven't decided whether or not it stays or goes.
This is too conspiratorial, but if you take the CIA study, I can't remember anyway, they try to hide that. At the same time, Project Mockingbird is being put in place. CIA plants on every network and every major news source. How much of what our 500 channel cable system, our 85-inch screen TVs, how much of that has just been a 60-year pattern and process of detuning people from learning about things like this? Like, they knew that report was gonna get out, so they got ahead of just distracting people from even spending time. Your group of people who don't even wanna listen to the idea, much less study it. How much of that has been directed, by various governments, various agencies?
That's a good question.
TV programming.
Yeah, the question is about how much of the clown world idiot species that's most everyone out there has been distracted and dumbed down on purpose by the government, CIA, things like that. I wouldn't say, first of all, I would say a lot. Like, it's been intentional and there's been a lot of it. I don't know that this disaster cycle is necessarily the overarching reason, but it's things like this. Like, there are things they want us to know and believe and things they don't. And there's behaviors that they want to promote and there's behaviors that they don't. Discussions, same way.
And all that's easier with a dumbed down population.
All of that is much easier with a dumbed down, distracted population, especially when everything we believe is a lie. So, given the amplitude and thickness of the galactic current sheet, how long would we be transiting, and at what point does the micronova occur? At the beginning or the end of the transit? So, it's a fair question. Let's go back to this. And make sure we can see it up there. All right, so I'm pretty sure that the current sheet arrived in about 1859. In 1859, we had the Carrington event, the last time the sun super flared, but we also had the start of the highly accelerated magnetic pole motion. And so it makes sense to me that that's when the solar system shift occurred. It's what triggered the Earth to start ramping up this process. It triggered the Carrington event. And so we've been going through the dusty electric field of it. Now, the very central point, the magnetic null, when that hits, the sun should start to turn red, and it should probably micronova within just a few days. I like the idea of one day it goes red to black, and then it's black for maybe 2 or 3 days, and then you get the micronova. That seems to be... that works from a physics perspective with what we know about the galactic current sheet, and it also works with the archaeological, religious, and mythology that has to be corroborated with all this. Yes, August?
It also works very well with the graphs of nova events and different types of stars. There's a warm-up period. It's weeks leading up to a peak brightness, which lasts for a week or two sometimes, maybe up to a month, where during the day, you're not gonna be able to be outside. It's just too bright, things are burning. There'll be so much smoke and debris in the atmosphere because of all the burning and all that stuff. But this is.
Can you guys hear him back there?
I mean,
I can't imagine you can actually hear him back there, right?
Atlantis, and it took down all these other buildings and stuff, and all these buildings you see all over the beach and Persepolis and stuff, those were built before the nova. They were knocked down, and the reason they're not rebuilt.
Don't worry, I'll recap the whole thing.
To build those things again. That's old artifacts.
So he's talking a little bit about what Doug Vogt thinks is going to happen with the sun basically reaching peak brightness after the nova and staying there for a while. I'm not sure how much I actually like that one. I think it's much more likely that the sun is black and then there's a nova flash, like it goes from black to brighter than you could ever imagine. And then there's the dusty plasma, which is blocking our view of the sun for a while. And it's not necessarily the brightness, but the super flares in the wake of the surface and the photospheric and chromospheric reorganization in the wake of the micronova. There's August, by the way. He decided to come up here so you could actually hear him.
Yeah, many things are going to happen when this happens. When you have a sun or a star going into this condition, you're going to have bursts and flashes and flares and all this stuff. It's going to have all this debris coming out. You don't want to be on the way to Mars. You don't want to be on Mars, okay? And you might want to be on the backside of the moon, perhaps, if it happens at the time when that happens. The moon's like, 14 days in darkness on the backside.
Talk at my computer.
Sorry, yeah. So the idea here is when this happens, when it happens, it's going to be a little bit of a warning. Suddenly the sun will start getting brighter because this has to do with the galactic wave. As the wave increases and we start getting more and more density, you're going to see the sun getting brighter because it's going to have to be reacting to all this new information, new material basically on its surface. So it's going to get popping. It's going to be crazy. But for several days, and all these stars show this, several days there's this ramp up where it just gets mysteriously brighter. Brighter, 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 brighter. When it gets 2 or 3 times as bright as the normal sun, you want to be inside for the next week or two because it's just going to get brighter and brighter till it meets peak. And the peak is the crest of the dust wave as the dust wave finally hits our star. And it just envelops it. And then the whole thing is just like glowing. And eventually it calms down. The wave goes away. The star is basically in equilibrium, finds an equilibrium, then it goes back to its normal brightness after about a month or two.
Yeah.
So
That would be the other option. That would be Doug Vogt's version.
yeah. Well, we do have photographic and measured evidence of what these stars do when they don't go nova. So we'd have a little bit of stuff, but yeah, there should be it shouldn't just pop.
I think it's going to be more like Beetlejuice's event.
You think?
Yeah, way more like what happened to Beetlejuice the last 2 years.
Well, yeah, but I talked to Pierre too, and Pierre goes, they don't pop. You know, they probably don't pop. You know, it's just all of a sudden, bang. No, those are
All you got to
flares.
do, all you got to do is look at T-pics, and you can see that there's stuff going out. In all
Oh,
directions.
absolutely. And these huge super flares that are happening in other star systems, I don't know how any planets could actually, survive in those systems.
I'll say this, Winthorpe, if you keep telling me what to do, I'm going to block you and you're never going to be able to speak again. Do not listen to this Winthorpe dumbass telling you guys ships are going to be flipped. It's not safe. Well, if you're going to be hit by the tsunami, it's that or you die.
Oh, don't
Yeah,
worry, the
okay,
aliens
a
will
lot
die.
of people who try to float away are going to die. But everyone in that impact zone who doesn't float away is going to die. Winthorpe, shut up.
That being said, that maybe that's what the rapture is. Those lucky few that end up surviving and end up being the human beings that reproduce the planet after this thing. I mean, there's got to be a reason why all these religious documents list this kind of trials and tribulations, these end times and stuff. What did they know? Because most of the Sumerians said they got it from the Anunnaki. They got it from these gods, these other guys on the planet, which I think are probably the tall whites, which are probably still around. But that was for my last presentation when I was in cannabis psychosis. No, it's like, so yeah, I think what's happening is just people know this stuff. They know this stuff instinctively. They've recorded on rocks. They've recorded in walls and cave paintings and stuff. We're pretty sure that something really dramatic happens. And it's anybody's guess as how bad it's going to get.
Yeah, I'm starting to see utterly preposterous things being put in the comment section, which lets me know it's about that time. I'll answer this one, and this will be the last one. We'll cut it there because we've been going almost an hour. This is an interesting question. When the sun turns black for a few days, what does this mean for temperatures on Earth and how to prepare for that? My imagination is nothing at all. Here's why. There's going to be an enormous amount of dust buildup on the sun. When dust takes in visible, ultraviolet, or X-ray radiation, it re-emits that light in what wavelength? Infrared. Always infrared. It doesn't, anything from any kind of photospheric energy that's taken in by dust is re-emitted as infrared energy.
Interstellar retina.
Yeah, and so that combined with the fact that the ancient stories don't talk about a freeze until after makes me think that it might be a shift in the frequency or the wavelength of the light and heat energy coming from the sun, but I don't think it's going to be.
Well, that in our atmosphere has tons of moisture, tons of water, holds heat for days and days.
Our atmosphere does hold heat pretty well. But anyway, all right, well, this actually worked out fairly well. Yeah.
Can I mess you up?
Pardon?
Can I mess you up?
This woman in the front row just says, "Can I mess you up?"
Please.
What do you mean by that?
I wanted to know, did yours have what pollution?
The what?
Pollution.
We've mentioned it. What's your question?
I just was curious
that time span, given this event, if that was foreseeable in this timeframe?
Yeah, it's,
All,
yeah. In fact, I don't know how to explain the vast majority of the evidence without everything that I have said is going to happen. Yeah, I mean, the only way something makes it into the story I tell is if it is explaining the evidence. My big thing is, there's lots of good ideas about what caused this or what caused that. We have to wrap our heads around something that repeatedly causes all these different kinds of evidence to happen over and over again. And so either there's 7 or 8 cosmically massive things that are happening to the planet at the same time over and over again. And what is the most preposterous coincidence ever? Like, imagine you give birth, you win the lottery, and you find your long lost twin all on the same day. Very unlikely all of those, and then you get hit by lightning as you're laying down to go to sleep at night. Very unlikely all those things happen in the same day, right? It's the same kind of thing. The chances are that this is not a bunch of random different things causing all this evidence. There's one thing that is triggering all these lines of evidence. And one of the things is all the evidence of the crustal shift. And there's no way you can explain that evidence without it, really. So yes, it's very much a part of it.
I've been waiting decades and thinking this was gonna happen at least every month for the last 5 years.
Oh, that must have been challenging.
So,
She's been worried about this every month for 5 years.
I just wondered,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that part is going to happen until the 2040s, but.
Things are gonna be normal till about the 24th.
All right, chat. Do you see Susie Rose Finley? You know her, Live Like a Viking? In the chat there? She's right here. She's literally on YouTube, super chatting from the back of the room. And her wonderful daughter Leia is here too. All right, we're gonna call it there. Guys, we got dinner in an hour. I'll see you in the morning for the Daily Show. Be safe, everyone.